This is the Music Maestro podcast, a behind-the-scenes look at the people shaping the sound and business of music. Today's guest is Mike Delinquent, a DJ, producer, songwriter, and one of the architects of the UK bassline and garage movements. Over the past 2 decades, he's helped shape the sound of UK dance music through chart hits, influential remixes, and collaborations with artists including Usher, Sierra, Wiley, Deneo, and Fifth Harmony. But right now, Mike is experiencing something very few artists ever get to witness. A second life for one of his biggest records. Nearly 20 years after its original release, My Destiny by Delinquent and Cat has exploded online, attracting millions of new streams and becoming an unexpected contender for Song of the Summer in 2026. From pioneering underground scenes to navigating the viral age, Mike's career offers a unique perspective on how great music can find new audiences long after its first release. This is Mike Delinquent. Mike, good to have you here, mate.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure.
We go way back, don't we?
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, how many years is it? Probably 15 plus, could be 20.
I reckon so. If we're counting garage forums and
yes,
things
uptown.
Like that. But we met in 2011, I think, properly.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, there's a lot I want to talk to you about, and there's a lot of this that I'm kind of aware of already. But with what's happening at the moment, I think it'll be good to explain to people like the full history of not just Delinquent but yourself. So what I want to do is go back to the very beginning, you working in a phone shop, making music on the side. Take us back to that period and explain how a kid from North London ended up with a career in music.
Yeah, it's just I'm casting my mind back as you're asking that, and I've got like images that are just kind of coming to me. As a kid, I think leaving college, which is where I met Kat and where I met Phil in Barnet College, and after completing my A-levels, I knew that I wanted to do music, but none of my A-levels were linked to music as such. So it was a case of, right, I want this career, but how do I go about it? I wasn't really sure. So I thought, okay, I would eventually end up in a sound engineering course called SAE. And before that, I took a year out, essentially just kind of producing and working. So I was working to raise money to study.
Yeah.
I was remixing, very early remixes at this point.
How old are you at this point?
I would say 18 to 19. It was kind of just after A-levels, so a year out.
This is still solo, right?
I would say that Phil and I were producing together by this point.
Okay.
So we met in the second year of college. We saw a recording studio across the road.
I see.
And we thought we'd try it one day. So we were making R&B initially with vocalists from college, creating songs. We were always about songs. We loved full vocal songs. You know, we loved Timbaland, Dr. Dre. We loved a lot of the American R&B and hip hop producers. We loved mid-90s R&B, dancehall, Greek music as well. There was so many different influences in us, even dance and eventually UK Garage. But I would say first we were kind of on the song element. I met Kat in college. We formed a connection really quickly. We were writing. We were friends initially, and then we became boyfriend and girlfriend a few years later at that point. But as a kid, it was a case of just experiencing life at around 18 to 19 years old. Culturally, London was thriving, I felt. We had that kind of ability to be able to listen to R&B, hip hop in one aspect, and then also the raving culture of UK Garage. I was beginning to be old enough to rave. Yeah. So I started going to garage raves in Bagley's, at Gas Club, and just discovering this sound. And for me, my favourite kind of songs and productions were coming from producers like Artful Dodger, Craig David. I think with Phil, he was more into Wookie and the kind of different beat patterns with maybe the darker bass line. Yeah. I think that's why me and Phil worked together well, for sure. But we were both into songs, so it was always about that. And I think working in a phone shop for me was about simply dreaming, of eventually having a career in music. And you're not really sure how it's going to go at this point. Yeah. But Yeah, I remember specifically working in Phones for You, and some of my remixes being played like by Luck and Neat on Kiss and Pirate stations at the time. So this is when Bruck Out and Countdown were out on vinyl, for example. This is when we were remixing Jamelia and Mystique, and they were getting played on like Choice FM and other different stations. And so this was very much the beginning of what was the kind of Delinquent remix period.
Yeah,
as we were starting to put out vinyl.
And so when did Delinquent officially form? You talk about you and Mike being in the studio early doors and, you know, that dabbling with R&B to begin with. Are you Delinquent then, or did Delinquent sort of develop later?
We were called other names. We called ourselves other names at this point. I think one of them was Imperial.
Yeah.
It was floating around. Terrible name, honestly. I think that was down to me, actually. I'm going to take the unfortunate credit for that. Yeah. But yeah, so our first vinyl release that maybe a lot of people won't know is we remixed Maxi, formerly of Brownstone. Yeah. A track called This Is Where I Want to Be. So it was like the follow-up to When I Look Into Your Eyes. It was an MJ Cole mix of that. Do you remember that?
Banger, that one.
Yeah, that amazing song, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So we did the next release. We were on the flip side of So Solid's remix.
Okay.
But we did it underneath the guise of Pure Genius, which was Keflon from Genius Crew's solo project.
Okay.
So we were already formed, but I'd say the name Delinquent was definitely 2001 to at this point where we started putting our name to mixes and developing.
Because listen, I that's sort of how I got to know you is through the Delinquent thing. And
sure,
I came into garage probably as in a budding DJ around about a similar time, which I would probably refer to as post-peak garage, right?
Definitely.
We've come away from the dizzy heights of chart hits, and it's actually starting to be a bit of a downward spiral in terms of the pure, that garage two-step sound, the 4/4, that kind of thing. And so with Delinquent, I mean, listen, there's some of the Delinquent garage productions, one in particular, Circles, it's one of my all-time favourites, and that's against everything that's ever been released. But I feel like Delinquent always came into garage like right place, perhaps at the wrong time. Now, based on what's happened recently, maybe that's not necessarily true, but I always, because far as I see,
I would agree with you.
I mean, Delinquent was such a force that if it had been 5 years earlier or even 5 to 10 years later, I could have seen you being Disclosure, Rudimental, like that kind of level. But it was that there was a dodgy phase, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I feel like we came through quite late in a way. I think everything happens, you know, in God's time, but I feel like even I have this chat with Phil as well. I've had it before with him. I've had it with Kat as well lately, where if we believe that if we were out in the 90s, we would have been maybe kind of more in line with perhaps the culture of what was going on then. I feel like we always loved songs, whether it was R&B, garage, drum and bass, dancehall, fella, Kuti or Greek. We just loved full vocal songs. We weren't really always set out to be part of a scene, I think, in the beginning. And I think maybe that's why our production sounded slightly different when we did come through. So we came through more prominently in 2002, 2003, where we had our two-step, and we also had our 4/4, and our 4/4 was much darker. We would kind of have a classical element to our 4/4, but then we would use synths that were a bit more electronic than what was going on at the time. So the A side would always be like a vocal, you know, two-step, lovely, happy kind of vocal, or something that could be considered more commercially viable. But then our 4/4 would be a dub, and it would be a little bit more naughty. It'd be a bit more adventurous production-wise. And I think that's actually eventually what shaped our career, because the 4/4 mixes were the ones that, although whilst in London there was a 4/4 scene as we know it, it was much more chop-up vocal. It was much more kind of not as full vocal, let's say, and more bumpy. I think was the word that was being described at the time. And I think I never felt that the London scene really got us or spoke about us in the same way as other producers, which I think it's down to taste as well and things like that. But our 4/4 productions were heavier, and they got played up north, and that's when we got the call that I always refer to, which is by Sean Banger Scott and Nev Wright, who called up and said, like, your tracks are getting absolutely hammered up here.
Yeah.
And we couldn't believe it. We're like, where? And they said, in the clubs. There's a club here called Niche. It's getting every week your songs are getting played. We couldn't understand it, genuinely, because we hadn't been out of London. We didn't know anything about Sheffield. We didn't know anything about the Midlands.
Yeah.
So when these productions of ours that we felt were just B-sides of full vocals were getting played up there in the clubs and doing damage, as they referred to it, we couldn't believe it, and we wanted to know more. And that's when I had to learn how to DJ, because I was getting approached to do DJ sets. So yeah, that's how it kind of kicked off.
And so I guess what I was describing is like there was this downfall of like garage, but actually all the while up north there's this huge bassline scene developing, and as I say, that's sort of where they welcomed you with open arms, right? And I guess, how did it feel to become part of that scene? And because I kind of felt like perhaps with garage, maybe the people in control of that scene perhaps didn't have as open arms for you guys. There was people like we talk like champions, proper heads will know about DJ Charmer, right?
Yeah.
He was doing his thing down south. But, I mean, aside from that, it was, there was the old school scene, and that was that, right? Bassline was different.
It was. Bassline was a scene which kind of followed on from speed garage. Now, what we had in this era, I think a lot of people don't maybe remember, but you couldn't use the word garage everywhere you went.
Yeah,
in London, put on, especially with all the problems at the back end of 2001.
Yeah.
You couldn't use the word garage in the centre of London to put on an event. Yeah. We know, because we tried to do birthday bashes. No one was having it.
Yeah.
We had to call it 4-4.
Yeah.
But we still booked garage DJs. We booked Norris the Boss, for example. We played. And then up north, they couldn't really use the word speed garage. So they had to come up with a different word. And 4-4 seemed to be the term, because it was 4 beats in the bar. So it was a case of speed garage became 4-4, and then bassline, then 4-4 bassline, and bassline house. There were these different terms up north that were being used. And down here, it was mainly 4-4. So we struggled. As producers, we struggled. It was like, you want to do garage. You really want to be part of this garage scene that you love to rave to. Yeah. But there was a decline, and the new music wasn't getting played in the events. But up north, our 4-4 was getting played in the biggest club for this, which was Niche.
Yeah. So this leads me on to My Destiny. So what I want you to do is talk me through how that record came together. Because for me personally, it kind of felt like a record that sat on the somewhere between garage and bassline.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you made it as a bassline sort of record, but I felt like it had crossed the appeal, because like you say, bassline very heavy. Garage had that kind of lighter sort of element to it with the female vocal, which obviously this record has. So how did that all come about?
I think with My Destiny, it was a studio session with Kat and I, where Phil and I had already made a kind of like 32 bar instrumental, which was quite basic at this point. And then the next session was to have Kat write the song. So it was very much a song which was written to a two-step pattern, but we had our chords there. We had the main riff that still appears on the track today. It was very much just really about getting the song down. We felt like we were actually flooding our production a bit too much, and we wanted to make something which was emptier on production, and the vocal was more the ultimate focus. So the vocal would lead the song like all the way through, and it not really so much be about layering our production too much. So the My Destiny 2-step mix was the first version, and it was doing pretty well on the pirate stations in London. It was getting played, and it just felt straight away. I remember the session when Kat first wrote that first line. I kind of thought that there was going to be something special coming from this. It's just a feeling that I had.
Wow. And we'll come back round to that special moment, which is basically happening now. But I think there's an important part to sort of talk about with yourself is obviously Delinquent was a force in its own right. You're doing your thing with, still with the garage scene, even though perhaps it wasn't its peak, in the bassline scene, you're smashing it there. You've got this huge record as well back then. But you know, at one point you and Phil, decided to go your separate ways, and you launched the Mike Delinquent project, right?
That's correct, yeah.
And I always remember it because there was notable remixes. There's Yasmin and there's Wretch 32, which springs to mind. And this sort of came around the time of one of the Garage Resurgences, around 2010, 2011,
yeah, late
maybe.
2010, 2011.
So yeah, how did that all come about?
Yeah, I think it was a case of I was wanting to experiment a bit more with my production. I'd already made, just a few years earlier, Deneo's Eye, which is a Soulful House track. I'd been making even just bits of dubstep and working on Cat's solo project. And then I'd stopped producing. I'd become more of a kind of session musician for 6 months. And in that kind of gap, Phil was very much into, you know, funky house, UK funk. He was promoting his own events. He was spending a lot of time doing that. I was kind of doing my session stuff, and it was like a natural two people just going their separate ways, to be honest with you. And I eventually kind of missed production just as the year went on, and I got back into remixing. I did something for Cat, which was her track Epileptic, and then DJ Fresh Gold Dust on Ministry of Sound. That was mid 2010, but it wasn't if you listen back to that, it's kind of like a cross between that era. Do you remember that Major Lazer era where it was like beats, but there was a bit of bass?
Yeah.
I kind of just did my thing on that, which is a skippy kind of beat pattern with garage influences and a bit more eclectic. And then from that, I got an approach from an A&R at Ministry asking me to do a two-step mix of a new signing, which was Wretch 32. I remixed Tractor in 2 sessions, and just found out 2 months later it was getting played everywhere on national radio, and Annie Nightingale was the first to play it. Then kind of progressed to Nick Grimshaw, Annie Mac, and it was just national exposure instantly. And then that first week in January, I just got inundated with remix requests, and I just felt like something was kind of on the cusp of happening again, because it'd been a couple of years since My Destiny. And even with what you asked earlier about whether My Destiny was garage or bassline, it started off as a garage record really, but as a song, like an R&B song really. And then we did the 4/4 mix because we wanted airplay up north. Essentially. And we did what was called the 4/4 mix. And then it very much took off as a Sheffield anthem, you know. So it'd been a few years since that kind of airplay in Sheffield and up north, and the 2011 Resurgence felt different. It felt exciting at the same time, because it was that new sort of bass two-steppy sound off the back of where dubstep was so prominent the year before.
Yeah. So when was My Destiny originally released?
On vinyl, it was 2006, because we wrote it in 05.
2006.
We had test presses that were around in 05, and I was handing them out at the 4x4 event in Romford.
So 20 years after its release.
20 years, yeah.
You're having this viral moment again. How did you find out about this?
My Destiny was on TikTok briefly, I think sporadically, I would say, for a few years. People were uploading it as like a throwback bassline record, because the bassline mix was so prominent. Even the one that we did in 07, people were clipping it up, and there were a few videos that were on 3-4 million views at the time, and good viewing, but not really setting the world alight in the way that it then did 6 weeks ago. So I got a message from someone. The name escapes me right this second, but someone's messaged me saying, "Have you seen what's happening with My Destiny?" So someone I don't know. It's a message that's gone into my message requests. And I've looked at it and it says, "Oh, have you seen what's happening with My Destiny?" It's like there's a trend attached to it. I'm like, do you know what? Honestly, I didn't really think much of it. I just thought, oh, it's another kind of like, My Destiny's, someone's chopped it up and whatever. But then I'm looking at one video, then the second one, and then the third and fourth, and there's so many of these videos that are from the neurodivergent community. So like young adults and like late teens, like they're autistic or ADHD diagnosed, undiagnosed. They just seem to just be taking the track, making so many videos with it, and it's spreading and spreading, and they're hashtagging Neurodivergent, and we couldn't believe it, because for us it was really spiritual, I felt, because Kat and I of course married, and we have 2 children that are neurodivergent. My son's pre-verbal autistic, so we were like, what's going on? It's hairs are standing up. The tune is getting not synced, but they're using it as a sound bed.
Yeah.
And the song is spreading and spreading. It went from a couple of thousand uploads to 4,000 a day, and then 10,000, and the uploads are just going crazy. And then, we're looking at all these videos of neurodivergent young adults, and they're really chopping up a section as well of My Destiny, not only the chorus, but they're chopping up the ad-lib section, the E's. And we're like, oh my God. And they're saying, this song makes them feel a certain way.
Yeah.
It blew us away. We couldn't believe that was the reason, just because of our own personal situation. It just felt really special.
So it's become the and correct me if I'm wrong, like the soundtrack to the neurodivergent community, which you were very much a part of, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, because we have learned a lot due to our son being diagnosed as autistic, and our daughter's going through diagnosis as well for ADHD. So we've done a hell of a lot of reading. We're living that life, wholeheartedly. There's a lot that comes with being a parent to neurodivergent children. There's a lot of battles that people don't see behind the scenes. There's a great deal of paperwork. We're always, fighting for our kids' rights, and education-wise, there's a great deal that happens. And I think the fact that something good has come out of what we've been going through, and then musically something's attached to it as well, it just absolutely blew us away. When it was 6 weeks ago, it still feels so fresh. I'm talking about like it happened a while back, but this was about 6 to 8 weeks ago when this first started happening.
And then, so I guess a couple of questions then is like, well, one actually is, am I right in thinking it was a slowed version of the original record that went viral?
Not
or
first.
Was it the original?
Yeah, it was actually, someone somehow has got the original flip side, the full vinyl.
Right.
Not even the one that had charted in 2008, not with the guitars.
Yeah.
There's one where it just drops completely, and it's just literally Kat's vocal and the bass. They've chopped up that version, but then it's also been chopped up as a chorus, and the ad-libs, the E's. Like, our son makes that E sound, by the way.
Right.
So that's why to us it was just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
We're literally looking at each other like, what is going on? Because it just fell too perfectly, and it's just, this is where, like, at this point, I feel like saying that this is definitely something bigger than us. It's definitely like very spiritual what happened, and we think that it's happened obviously for a reason, and it just, that version, that way it was chopped, just felt just really, really good. And there was the original version, and there was also a slowed down version that was beginning to appear as well. So it was getting put on clips that had cars. So we went from like the neurodivergent community to sort of automobile industry, anime, lots of anime as well, a bit of football, fashion. It just started just spreading, and it's now on 3.5 billion views on TikTok.
Okay, so the next question then is why do you think now My Destiny has connected with not millions but billions of people?
I think there's 2 parts to the My Destiny story. So I strongly believe that there are many people that remember it originally from what happened, not only in the charts but in the Bassline underground scene and garage as well. Because I consider it as like a song, but it kind of fell between garage and Bassline essentially.
Yeah.
So there's always that, and we can never forget it or ever discredit the fact that that's what happened in 2006, 7, 8. But now it feels like a new demographic have discovered it. It feels like new people have discovered it, and they've connected with it in some way. It could be the subject. I think the subject of destiny. I certainly feel that the neurodivergent community have connected with it because they feel that it's their destiny to be how they are. Because a lot of people are misunderstood. A lot of neurodivergent people, we feel are misunderstood. We have as well. Kat and I believe that we know that we are neurodivergent as well. Mm-hmm. So having learnt so much about our son, it's taught a lot about ourselves, and as a community, certainly there's a lot of misunderstanding of neurodivergent adults, neurodivergent children, and I think the song and the subject matter has connected initially with that community first. And I think from then, with TikTok, we know how it is.
Yeah.
Someone hears a snippet or something that they might like that's got a bit of a bounce, or it might be very happy sounding, or it just might be that clip that people hear and think it's got great energy, and then it just spreads and spreads and spreads. And that's what we've been noticing. So I think that people have been connected to it in different ways along the journey so far. It's, as I say, been 2 months, and we think that it's kind of just spreading to different communities every time.
So very much a new chapter for the record. What are you hoping to achieve with this new chapter for My Destiny?
Well, I think it's what we've always wanted to do, which is to have our music heard by as many people as possible. We received the rights back from the original record label. Now it's signed to Robots and Humans, Sony Columbia Ministry. So it's like a collaborative effort between several labels in the Sony umbrella, which we believe is going to give the opportunity for the song to be heard by even more people than perhaps if we were doing it by ourselves. So that's the aim, to spread that positivity, to remind people as well. I think there's a story within the story, and I think that just don't ever give up. Don't give up ever, because it's been close several times. There's been so much that's happened. There's been so much that's happened over the last 10 years in many aspects of my life and in our life. There's been so many difficulties. Yeah. And it just feels like this has happened at a certain time.
Yeah.
That the timing is just, I don't know how or why, but it's happened, and we're embracing it. But just don't ever give up.
Well, listen, I mean, it's very special what's happened here, and I think, there's, like you say, there's so many facets to this record. But I think one of the things that amazes me, obviously, is the power of TikTok. Like,
oh God,
and there's a lot of criticism that can come to social media, and some of that is warranted. But there is something very beautiful that you can get with social media, and I think this is a perfect example of that. But coming back to the actual song and the style of song, as you've said, it sort of fits somewhere between bassline and garage. Now,
sure.
This is not the first garage record that has had a comeback through TikTok. It's happened a few years, and so I guess is why do you think UK Garage keeps coming back, whether it's TikTok or club culture? You've got a lot of new artists coming through now, but they always seem to find a new audience.
Yeah, I think UK Garage from the old school days, the old school era of 93 through to 2001, I think it was a special era. It was the fact that you can have these kind of UK sounding beats that sound very UK with the type of bass that a lot of the producers used. And I mean, I might be referring more from 90, sort of 97 onwards.
Yeah.
Because my era, like, the era that I prefer is the full vocal era. Grant Nelson, Artful Dodger, Sunship, whatever. I think the unique thing about garage is that you can have instrumentals, you can have MC records, you can have your full vocals, and there's so much variety. And I think the UK loves that harder edge, even within our tastes of drum and bass and house, we like it rough and tough,
Yeah.
And I think that the reason why the music will always keep coming back is because generations are discovering what they like about UK Garage. So I think there's a lot of new producers that have been influenced by what's happened in the late 90s, particularly, like even now. But I think there's producers that also have been influenced by what happened in the 2000s, in the lost years, in the years that came in the resurgence of 2011. There's producers like Sammy Virgie now, MPH, Oppidan, who they'll say to themselves, we've perhaps been influenced by garage, but they're influenced by other genres as well. But they are doing their own form. They're producing their own brand of garage, but they're going on tour worldwide with it. They're doing
incredible,
better and bigger things than what we were doing in the 2000s and also
before
the 2011 resurgence. And it's great to see that. It's great to see that producers are still flying the flag with that sound, and that's why it keeps coming back. It's the type of sound it is. It's so versatile, and it's very, very much to do with the identity of the UK.
I think, again, a question I'm interested to ask is, we spoke about the resurgence in 2010, 2011. And as I say, I always kind of feel like there's always some sort of resurgence with garage, to the point that it feels like it never actually goes away. Right now, do you think we're seeing a genuine garage revival, or is this just going to be another temporary viral spike?
I think you're going to get revival spikes of songs. Firstly, that's something that's always going to happen. I think when a song has resonated with a group of people, it will come back, and quality always remains, always appears when you least expect it as well. But I think that with garage, it's still very active as an old school scene. There's so many events still. There's so many new producers, as I mentioned, going on tour. I don't know if we're going to start seeing many garage records coming back because of TikTok, but equally so, I can imagine it happening. I think that it just could be the way it's been discovered. I know that with My Destiny, I feel like it wasn't tied to a genre. I think it was the whole Neurodivergent thing that kicked it off. But that's an individual story, and I think that's unique. And I think that every song is unique in that way. There was obviously a resurgence of Sunship's remix of Midnight Pressure. Friendly Pressure. So, and that was traditionally 4/4 UK Garage. I think that is going to exist. I think there is going to be a bit of nostalgia attached to it. Absolutely. Because people are remembering how music felt in a different era. And it could be said that maybe some of the music now isn't giving off the feels that maybe what we had back then. When I say we, I mean my eras, when I first came through, was 2003 onwards, but people might go back even to the 90s and even the 80s and 70s for that kind of full song feel. And there's amazing new music at the moment. But I've seen some opinions where people feel that the way music sounds now is different, and I think that's why there is a big cluster of people in a community that like to occasionally look back and bring back songs that were successful in yesteryear. And actually sometimes, in some respects, they're kind of making, you say successful, but they're actually then becoming more successful with the resurgence of them in some cases. The beauty of social media is you can reach the world.
Exactly.
Whereas before it was Bluetooth.
From
one phone to another.
And that's the thing, I guess, we talk about Sammy Virgie, MPH Oppidan, and how they've kind of gone global now. But
absolutely.
I guess there's the, not to take anything away from them, but they've got that opportunity, that platform to be able to go global. UK sound used to be very much a UK sound.
Definitely.
Like, imagine how big garage was in the UK, couldn't break US, and there was reasons for that. I mean, obviously R&B was absolutely smashing it over there at the time, but funny enough, that sort of leads me on to the next question, which comes to the remixes thing now, whether that be a Delinquent remix or a Mike Delinquent remix. You've always kind of had your hand on these remixes, and coming, when we talk about garage, remixes have always historically been a huge part of that scene. But actually, going back to early house days, I always think of like David Morales, MK, Armand Van Helden. They were like iconic remixers. What makes a great remix?
I think if it's a full song, it's about complementing the song and bringing the producer's style to that song, marrying the two together. and it's got to work. Definitely in the clubs if it's a club mix, for sure. And equally so, you've got to listen to it as a second song away from the original and say, does that sound good as well?
Yeah.
Not to say better than the original, whatever, but different to the original, but is it standing alone on its own? That's what I think makes a good remix.
Yeah.
I prefer doing mixes that musically complement the original vocal, but I've also done dub mixes personally, and I know many of fellow producers and producers of the past who've done amazing dubs that are not maybe interested in full vocals, and they just kind of do their thing and use elements of the vocal. But if you're asking me, yeah, if you're going to remix a vocal and a song, what makes it good is what you add and the flavour that you can bring to it to make it stand on its own.
Yeah, totally. Do you think remix culture is still important today?
I do. Oh, absolutely. I think what's also important is having like a really quality song to start with, and as an original that has a great voice, that has great production. And I think that there's people that may say not every song needs to be remixed, and I hear that.
Yeah,
I hear that. But also remixes are really important if you're trying to explore different genre, I think, with the song, definitely.
Okay, so I think, what I was going to ask is, if you were to remix an artist today as whoever, Delinquent, Mike Delinquent, who would that be right now?
Leon Thomas pops into my head at the moment.
Yeah.
Initially, yeah. I mean, there's many more. Cleo Soul, Kehlani. Yeah, definitely. They're kind of. I'm a mid-90s R&B head, and these artists that are coming out now that are doing R&B in the way that I believe R&B should be made, just focusing on the song, amazing vocal tone. Yeah. But not to be pigeonholed into R&B, but to get that vibe, that feeling that it gives you. Definitely that's. Those artists that I've mentioned would definitely be artists that, off the top of my head, I'd be kind of excited to turn into, a dance version or garage.
Yeah, I mean, funny you mentioned, 90s R&B I absolutely love. And I guess there's sort of, the garage that always worked best had that sort of vocal element to it, right? I always remember Craig David referring to garage as like the perfect blend of R&B and dance. It's like when those two worlds collide, and it is exactly that.
Agreed, yeah.
One of the reasons why I think it's so popular is because it sort of ticks those two boxes that are in their own right, two very powerful genre scenes. So what's next for Mike Delinquent? What's next? Do I mention Delinquent? Has Delinquent perhaps got a resurgence?
Well, as Delinquent, Phil and I have been back in touch, I think, about sort of 6-7 years. We've often talked about just kind of making a lot of our tracks that we put out on vinyl available again. So that's what's next for us. In terms of me as a producer, I've got songs that I've been working on for years. There's songs that I have, on the hard drive that I still believe in, that I think are strong. There's a lot of work that I've been doing myself as a writer as well, writing. I've got a collection of songs with Kat as well that absolutely feels like that's going to be what we're working towards next. For sure. We've got some songs that we're really kind of happy with, and I think broadly speaking, that's what's next. I think there is a plan. It's very sketchy at the moment. There is a rough plan of what's to happen, but I think in the immediate, it's absolutely pushing my destiny to the limit and performing it. Getting back on the live. We just announced now that we're going to be performing it live again, after previously sort of saying that the last two performances were going to be the last. So we performed at Garage Nation in the O2, performed at 30 Years of Niche up in Sheffield, and we said, right, Kat was saying, I think the song it's kind of achieved what it's achieved, and I don't think we're going to perform it again. Yeah. And we were like, yeah, cool. And 6 months later, this has happened, and we're back out there. Yeah. Mum and dad on the road. But it's we have a family, and that is very much a huge part of our lives, and that's in the immediate what's next, really. Continuing to be you know, a father first and foremost, and a husband, and that's what's next at the moment. And then music is gonna soundtrack our lives.
Amazing, man. Well, we're coming towards the end now, and so just to clarify there, I want to make sure that the Sport Rock catalogue is going to make its way onto Spotify, right? Because on my way here to do this, I was revisiting those songs, Like a Feather, Circles, Ghetto Queen, playing around. Are they going to be on Spotify?
They will. I can say that it is definitely happening at some point.
Amazing. Okay, so as a producer, what I want to know is if you were to give one piece of advice to a producer nowadays trying to build a long-term career, what would that be?
I would say form your sound. Choose the drums that you like. First of all, you can tell a lot from the drums. I think that's kind of. I'm not saying it gives every part the identity of a producer, but I think that getting drums that you're happy with, I think it's the hardest part initially. So build from the drums upwards. Find the basses that you like, and decide. Not decide straight away who you are or what you are, but definitely don't rush to release anything. So if we waited 2 years before we released anything at all, but that's us. That was back then in that era where there was no internet really to start putting out your music. But I think that definitely get happy with your sound straight, as quick as you can, but take your time at the same time. Don't rush. Find a mastering engineer as well that you think will enhance what you're doing. There's a lot of people self-master at the moment, but I believe in splitting the roles out. I believe in mixing down yourself, but also I believe in a really good mastering engineer taking your song to another level. That would be the fundamentals, I think. Business and branding are much more important these days.
Yeah.
Make sure you're on social media and doing the right things, posting clips of what you're doing. And don't get into any arguments like I used to.
Okay, we've got one final question before we wrap up, and it's a big question. What is your favourite song of all time and why?
One song?
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to get one song out of me, Dan. I don't think that's going to happen.
To be honest, this used to be a top 5 question, but even then people couldn't rank it.
I can give you songs that are.
What I'm interested to know is records or songs that have. Really, I want one, but if you've got songs that have really influenced you and you keep coming back to year after year, week after week,
that give you the feels kind of thing. I love such a wide range of music, everything from Roy Ayers, Everybody Loves the Sunshine, to. Montel Jordan, This Is How We Do It, from that era, for example.
Proper.
Alfonso Hunter, Just the Way Players Play, from the R&B era. Tupac and Snoop Dogg, Wanted Dead or Alive.
Yeah.
I absolutely love. Even the Glenn Lewis ballad, Fall Again, from the film Made in Manhattan.
Yeah, another one.
Like romantic ballad, but I love it because I'm a guitarist and I'd love sort of the guitar element.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of Latin jazz that I absolutely love, like bossa nova and songs that can appear in instrumental format.
Amazing. So
it's quite a big range, and enough is enough. If we're talking about my favourite garage vocal of all time,
Tribe.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Elizabeth Troy, yeah, killer.
And there's more. I'm not even doing
scratching the surface.
Yeah, this is just off the cuff,
Yeah.
But I think that there's a lot of Stevie Wonder, Another Star.
Yeah.
At one point, I was kind of ranking that as my absolute top kind of like. I just love everything about that song.
There you go. Well, we'll take that as the answer.
We'll do that. Bit of Stevie. It always falls back to him anyway.
Well, listen, man, we're done. Thank you very much for doing this. It's been great to talk to you properly after so long. And to be honest, from a personal note, like to see what's happening with this record, obviously the link to ministry as well is amazing. So
thank you, mate.
Let's hope. I want this to be the song of the summer this year, and hopefully, get that Sport Rotten catalogue back on Spotify,
Yeah,
mate. Yeah.
Don't worry, just for you, mate. We'll rush it.
Nice
You know,
one.
but thank you for having me. Honestly, it means a lot. Thank you.
Cheers, mate. Nice one.